Welcome down to the Malted Man Cave. I'm your host, Keith. Tonight we're going to be doing a battle of the 24-year-old Glendronachs. Alright, so as I said, tonight we're going to be doing the battle of the 24-year-old Glendronachs. So we have Glendronach 18. 18, you say, Keith? I thought you said this was a battle of 24-year-olds. Well, we'll get to that in a second. Then we also have Glendronach 21 Parliament. So the key factor in all this is that these are both the 2019 releases. You can always see on the back, typically with Glendronach, making them 24 years old. Now, you might say, Keith, what the heck are you talking about? I thought it's an 18 to 20-year-old whiskey. Well, as many of you whiskey geeks know, and some of you may not, there's a little allure around Glendronach, which is unfortunately probably going to be going away very soon, that Glendronach was mothballed in 1996, and so they kind of just, whether the business went on hard times or there wasn't as much demand for whiskey, and so the company just kind of shut down production and just let the cask lie there in the distillery. Fun fact, they're in mostly dunnage warehouses, which does make a difference and is very, I think, responsible for part of this distinctive earthy chocolatey note that I love about Glendronach. But anyways, I digress. In 1996, they were closed and mothballed, and they were reopened in 2002 by Allied Distillers. Now, at this point is when they made the absolutely brilliant marketing decision of actually bottling older whiskey than the actual age statements portrayed on the bottles. So, for instance, Glendronach 21, a couple years ago, instead of being 21, it was like 22 years old or 23 year old. Like 2 years ago, Glendronach 18, instead of being 24 years, which it says in 2019, it was like a 22-year-old or 21-year-old. And they did this with pretty much the entire core range. So the 12-year-old was a 15 or a 16-year-old, depending on what year it was. And the Glendronach 15, the old amazing revival, which I miss so much, was like an 18 or a 19, or I think it even got to a 21-year-old at one point. So it just kind of created this allure and this mystique about you, like this smug satisfaction of knowing you're getting a whiskey that's, 18 years, but really it's 23 years old or 24 years old. So, in 2019, as I said, these both, there's a little chart that I'll put a link to the website where it actually shows like, all right, if you have this 2018, it's this old, or the 2019 is this old. But in 2019, these were both 24-year-old whiskey. So I thought might be a good idea to have a battle of the 24-year-old Glendronach. So without further ado and too much blabbering, let's get into some whiskey. So both natural color, unchill filtered. The 21 comes in at 48% ABV, and the 18 Allardice comes in at 46% ABV. So in order to offset that, I'm going to pour a couple drops of water into the 18, so it's kind of even. Because sometimes if you have more ABV, it can impact the flavor when you're trying to put them, kind of a versus battle. Another thing you probably should do, and obviously drink your whiskey how you stinking like to, but if you're going to do an actual versus battle, you probably should kind of make sure that it's about the same amount of whiskey. All these little factors do add up, in my humble opinion. ABV, how much whiskey is actually in the glass, because it all can, make one maybe, oh man, it's so powerful and rich. Well, yeah, it's because that one has this much and this one's like this much, so it's going to smell like way stronger. All right, I think we're kind of close, about the same. So I'm going to put a few drops of water into the 21-year-old Parliament since it's 48% ABV to kind of bring it down closer to 46 like the 18 is. Not too much, just a little bit. Maybe. Yeah, that's probably enough. This isn't a perfect science, but a relatively soft science here in the Malted Man Cave down in the Clark basement. All right, so I'm going to start in with the 21-year-old. Oh my gosh. So one of my true loves when I first started out was just the sweet, rich sherry bombs like Glendronach, like the 12, the old 12, the old 15 revival, and then the 18 and then the 21. And obviously now I'm getting a little taste for the single cast, but I'd kind of gone down different pastures. I really got into Springbank, really got into Lagavulin and Pete and, you know, Kilhomans and Brookladdies and just kind of all the just Kleinleash and just, you know, just I just love whiskey. I want to try all the different types. And I kind of forgotten about Glendronach. I always loved it. It was always kind of my top 5 to 8 favorite distilleries, but I think I kind of forgot it. And I don't know, man, lately, it's probably back into my top 3, 4, 5 favorite distilleries. I mean, that's just amazing stuff. And it's really sad to me because once they stop releasing all these older whiskeys and I think it's been bought out by Brown-Forman. And who knows, they could continue the amazing tradition of quality sherry matured whiskeys, but I'm just a little worried that they're going to screw it up. But hopefully I will be wrong. All right, so the 24-year-old, 21-year-old Parliament. Now, mind you, there is more Pedro Jimenez cask maturation in the 21 versus the 18, which is all Oloroso. I'm going to put the exact cask maturation here for the 21. And then we'll put the 18 cask maturation right there, along with all their other fun facts about them. Oh my gosh, it's just immediately like chocolate covered apricots, chocolate covered strawberries, Coco Lopez, earthy chocolate Nesquik. I just love Glendronach so much. There's toasted oak, and there is like, you think sometimes with PX, sometimes it can get a little cloyingly sweet, but when you have a quality aged one, it gets that kind of oaky, complex other notes that kind of prevent it from being sickly sweet. And then it's just a decadent, rich, chocolatey, earthy, coconutty, Coco Lopez affair. That chocolate covered apricot note is so prevalent and so delicious. Toffee, buttery chocolate, like buttery pastries with some like chocolate chips in there. Snicker bars, leather armchairs. And the one thing I think that really kind of separates this from this is there's this like kind of funnel cake, just powdered sugar. It literally just smells like there's a bunch of like powdered sugar just in here. It's so sweet. It's so rich. And pretty much I get all those same notes on the nose and the palate. Yeah, obviously there's some differences, but for a more in-depth review, kind of go into our archives and check out Glendronach 21. I think Dave and I reviewed that. I think we did both, and we've also reviewed the Glendronach 18 quite a while, probably about 2 years ago. Oh man, it's good. All right, on to the 18 Allardice, which is also 24 years. Oh, this one, even though they're the same age, it's just more, it's more deep, it's more complex. It's got, instead of being more like powdered sugar and lighty fruit, but also chocolatey and earthy, it's like, it's all like chocolate covered cherries, earthy Dunnage Warehouse with chocolate Nesquiks, walnuts, you know, nuttiness Snicker bars, but walnuts is different. I don't get walnuts on the 21 as much as I do on this. Again, obviously the leather armchairs. The leather armchairs and the toasted oak is more prevalent on the 18 Allardice than it is on that. That one's kind of more sticky sweet. Now this one obviously is so much chocolate covered cherries and chocolate Nesquik, and it's so sweet, but it's super deep and rich and complex with all the oakiness and the leather arms as well. Oh, The leather is so prevalent, and not in a bad way. Sometimes older whiskeys can get a little too leathery for me. This is just right. And then you get kind of chocolate covered oranges. Like everything's chocolate covered in both of these. It's just chocolate, a chocolate extravaganza. But this one's chocolate plums, chocolate cherries, chocolate covered oranges. Again, which I get in a lot of Glendronachs, that creamy Coco Lopez and coconut note. Toffee, again, you get toffee on both of these. Butterscotch, toffee, you know, you name it, vanilla. It's kind of all interchangeable, and you kind of get them on all of these. Let me kind of go back again, kind of step them together. So, I mean, the leather and the oak is also here as well. It's just more deep and prevalent in this. This one is more sweet, fruity, powdered sugar, but also has the chocolate and the leather and the, you know, the oakiness. This one is more like the leather and the oak, but then also has the chocolate covered cherries and the Nesquik, and just, you know, they're both amazing. I love both of these. I hope I know I'm not going to be able to, but I wish I could always have these on my bar. I wish I could go buy 10 bottles of each of these, the 2019 version, before they're gone. Kind of for you guys that are whiskey collectors, now don't only take what you need to drink. Don't be selling them, or at least don't sell too many of them so that poor people like me can still afford some whiskey. You might want to look out for the Glendronach 21, because this one, the Glendronach 18, next year in 2020 is going to be going down to being an 18-year-old whiskey. It's not going to be older like it has been. Now the 21 next year is going to be a 25-year-old. The year after that it's going to be a 26-year-old. The year after that it's going to be a 27-year-old. And then after that it's going to go back down to a 21-year-old. So be looking after the Glendronach 21 Parliament. But only buy a few. Leave some for us poor people. Oh man. But then there's sometimes I prefer the 21 Parliament. It's so sweet. It's so rich. It's so, oh my gosh, maple syrup, Coco Lopez, chocolate covered apricots, like I said. This is just more deep and more complex, chocolate covered cherries. Oh man. Both amazing whiskeys. I think I prefer the 18 Allardice just the slightest bit more. You know, this is around more 90, 91. This is more around a 90, 89. I don't know. I could also see this being a 91, 92, and this being a 92, 91, 90. Both amazing whiskeys. But I think I got to give the slight nod to this. So typically I prefer Oloroso. Amontillado is my absolute favorite sherry cask, which you can't find that often. But Oloroso typically I prefer to PX, although I bought a 19-year-old 1994 19-year-old single cask PX sherry puncheon. Just I want to see like what is a quality PX, because the 12-year-old, I love the Glendronach 12. Sometimes it can be a little sickly sweet. I love it, especially the old Glendronach 12. I love it, but I just would probably rather have Oloroso. But when they start getting older, they're not as sickly sweet because they get that older leather notes, coconut notes, and it's way more complex, but then it's super rich and decadent. So I'm going to be reviewing that soon, and it's amazing. And I just bought a 23-year-old 1993 single cask Glendronach, from Whiskey World. I can't wait to get that because I bet it's even better than the 19-year-old, which is probably like a 92 out of 100 for me. Spoiler alert. So I think out of the battle of the Glendronach 24-year-olds, I got to give the nod to the Glendronach 18 Allardice. Amazing stuff. This one is like literally just like not that much behind it. They're both amazing whiskeys. So thank you guys for watching. Please like, subscribe, hit the notifications bell, and remember, Scotch is king, and especially Glendronach Sherry Bomb.